अस्सलाम वालेकुम लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन। अगर आपको याद हो तो लास्ट टाइम वी वर डिस्कसिंग बेसिकली द एज सब कल्चर्स, और उसमें आप रिकॉल करें कि वी हैड बीन डिस्कसिंग अबाउट वेरियस ग्रुपिंग्स दैट हैज बीन डेवलप्ड इन द इंटरनेशनल रिसर्च सेंटर्स, और ये ग्रुपिंग्स जो हैं तकरीबन पाकिस्तान में भी अप्लाई करते हैं, और इनका टाइम जैसे हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे, जनरेशन एक्स है, जनरेशन वाई है, बेबी बूमर्स, and then the older people. And in that, we were discussing that these people have specific characteristics which cross borders. वो internationally तकरीबन लोगों के जो converging का concept है, उसमें इस पे भी बहुत सख्त convergence कहलाई जा रही है, और कहा जा रहा है कि the most of the time these people tend to behave generally around the world in similar fashions, and that is why this has become a very potent method of segmentation, very strong method of understanding the various groups. और हमने कहा था कि marketing में the only reason why we are trying to look at all these factors, which include various methods of trying to segment the market, various methods of trying to understand the market, and various methods of trying to find homogeneities in these groupings, is because it makes the job of the marketer easier when he goes across the world. Isi session mein, when we will be finishing our basic discussion on subcultures, and we will be moving into the discussion on international subcultures, to uske jo basic background hai, usme we will be discussing and we will be finding out why these things have become so important and why they have taken so much recognition. Now, let's recapitulate what we had discussed in the last. We had discussed generation Y as people belonging from 9 years to 28. Ab ye bhi ek interesting area hai, because most of the researchers try and relate the generations to a specific birth time. Isko cohort bhi bolte hain. तो वो उनका जो कहना है वो ये कि अगर कोई शख्स लेट्स से 1980 से लेकर 1991, 92 तक पैदा हुआ, तो वो एक ग्रुप है जिसके करेक्टरिस्टिक्स मिलते होंगे. लेकिन अगर आप गौर करें तो वी हैव बीन टॉकिंग अबाउट एन एज ग्रुप बिटवीन 9 and 28 years. दिस इज रिसर्च्ड एंड दे हैव एग्रीड टू इट. 9 years क्यों लाया जा रहा है, 9 साल की उम्र को क्यों 28 साल की उम्र के साथ लिंक कर रहे हैं? कि इस वक्त तक 9 साल की जो उम्र के ग्रुप है, जो तकरीबन लेट्स से 12 से 13 साल की उम्र के लोग हैं, उनकी अभी कोई डिस्टिंक्टिव फीचर नजर नहीं आया. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ द इंटरनेट एक्सपेंशन एंड द यूज ऑफ इंटरनेट, इसको भी इस लार्जर ग्रुप वाई में शामिल कर लिया गया. और वी हैड बीन डिस्कसिंग पर्टिकुलरली दैट दिस ग्रुप आल्सो इंक्लूड्स लेट्स से द अडल्ट, द टीन्स एज वेल एज द किड्स. और ये जो जनरेशन वाई है, इनके अंदर भी जो हमने 3 कैटेगरीज आपको बताई, उसमें देखने की जो जरूरत है कि इस वक्त जो कैटेगरी वाई के जो किड्स हैं, वो अभी तक डिस्टिंक्टिव फीचर्स में नहीं आए, स्वाय इसके कि दे आर मोर टेक्निकल सेवी, और उसके अंदर उनके पास जो इंटरनेट ब्राउजिंग और इंटरनेट से जो चीज़ें ताल्लुक़ रखती हैं, उनमें उनका काफ़ी इन्वॉल्वमेंट है. एंड दैट इज़ सिमिलर टू द इन्वॉल्वमेंट ऑफ द पीपल ऑफ द adult group, which we call somewhere ranging between 21 to 28. And then there is this teen group, which ranges from, let's say, 12 years or 13 years to 18 to 19. Now, this is what we were discussing at that point of time. Similarly, we had discussed Generation X, and then we had talked about the baby boomers. और उसमें जो भी चीज़ें हमने डिस्कस की, उसमें 3-4 चीज़ें जो हमें भूलनी नहीं चाहिए. उसमें X के हवाले से ये बड़ा क्लियर है कि the Generation X people, they seem to be not very loyal to the brands. They like brands, but उनमें ये category of sticking to the same brand काफ़ी कम है. जबकि on the other side of the picture, we have been discussing कि जो Generation Y है, they believe that they are more sophisticated and they are more cynical. And cynical हमने कहा था वो लोग हैं जो हर चीज़ को आम तौर पे मानते नहीं है, और वो हर चीज़ को क्वेश्चन करने की कोशिश करते हैं. उनके अंदर डाउट की एक कंडीशन है, जो वो हर चीज़ को, यानी कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन उनको दे तो वो उनके अंदर डाउट पैदा होता है कि इस इंफॉर्मेशन में सच्चाई कितनी है और कितना इसके अंदर वो है, यानी कि झूठ मिक्स किया हुआ है या मुबालगा आराई की गई है. एंड देयरफॉर जनरेशन वाई और एक्स के जो डिफरेंसेस हैं, we have been able to use them in marketing. And also remember that in determining these age groups and looking at the categories that I have been talking about in terms of the why, we need to remember that there will be some overlaps that come into position. और ये जो overlaps हैं, ये बड़े क्या नाम है, रिसर्च किए हुए हैं, और इसमें there is a little bit of a conflict. Some people might include one group in one area and then may take that same group in another area. So there will be some overlaps, but you need to be very clear that all along these groups have got similar tendencies. और मैं जब बात कर रहा था, मिसाल के तौर पे जैसे मैंने कहा, X जो है, they do not like labels, they are very cynical, they are not brand loyal. और on the other side जो Y है, they have more or less shifted from the TV watching to internet watching and therefore or internet browsing. तो उसमें इन दोनों मैसेजेस में या इन दोनों की कम्युनिकेशन में या तरीक़ाकार में वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन फॉर मार्केटर्स. कहाँ हम मार्केट करेंगे, किस किस्म का ऐड बनाना है, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ मेथोडोलॉजी वी वुड लाइक टू यूज फॉर कम्युनिकेशन पर्पसेस, एंड वेयर विल वी यू पुट द ऐड और व्हाट मीडियम टू यूज. ऑल दीज थिंग्स बिकम वेरी क्लियर. फ्रॉम दिस वी हैड मूव्ड ऑन टू द ओल्डर जनरेशन ऑफ पीपल. और यहाँ भी एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग फिनोमिना है, और वो जो है क्या नाम है, अबाउट द ओल्डर जनरेशन. नॉर्मली पीपल हैव सम मिथ्स अबाउट देम. मिथ्स आर गलतफहमियां, एंड द अदर साइड देयर आर सम रियलिटीज. बट वी डू बिलीव दैट बिकॉज लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी जो है वो बढ़ती जा रही है, सो पीपल आर नाउ लिविंग फॉर लॉन्गर पीरियड्स ऑफ टाइम. और आप दूसरी जो चीज़ अगर आप गौर से देखें, जो कि विल बी वेरी क्लियर, कि नॉर्मली जितने भी हमने एज ग्रुप्स की पहले बात की, जनरेशन वाई, एक्स, बेबी बूमर्स, उनका एक खास टाइम फ्रेम है. जबकि इन केस ऑफ द ओल्डर कंज्यूमर्स, वहाँ 50 साल के बाद जब तक वो जिंदा रहते हैं, दे आर कॉल्ड ओल्ड कंज्यूमर. तो वहाँ भी कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स अकर भी करती हैं. और ये चीज़ भी बड़ी क्लियर होती जा रही है कि ऑल दिस ग्रुप ऑफ द ओल्डर पीपल हैव वेरी डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ बिहेवियर्स. जहां हम कहते हैं कि जो जनरेशन एक्स है उनकी बिहेवियर जो है वो तकरीबन सिमिलर है, वाई की भी सिमिलर है, लेकिन जो ओल्डर जनरेशन है उनमें काफ़ी फ़र्क है. सो देयर इज दिस इशू ऑफ क्या नाम है, द ओल्डर जनरेशन, एंड हाउ डू वी segment them and how we can use them in marketing. The one thing is very clear, that most of the wealth, yani कि most of the wealth which produces more money is owned by these older people, and we can see it happening in Pakistan too. All the parents, the grandparents, they are the ones who actually control land and properties and so on and so forth. और फिर जब तक वो जिंदा हैं वो उनके कंट्रोल में रहती है. Only when they pass away that this properties and this wealth and this resources get allocated to other people. So jab tak they are here, they will be controlling substantial amount of wealth of a nation, which is true in the Western world, and it is also true with the Pakistani society. Now, kuch myths hain कि these people, we consider them that because they are older, तो इनके पास काम कोई नहीं है, इनके पास फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज कोई नहीं है, और इसी तरह से इनके पास कोई प्रैक्टिकल या कोई प्रोडक्टिव काम करने की कोई चीज़ नहीं है. सो दे इट्स थॉट कि दे आर मोर ऑफ द टाइम पीपल हु आर अवेलेबल फॉर wasting the time. But the truth is that over 50 people still work. People go on working till they are 70 and they are very gainfully employed. उसकी वजह एक सिंपल है कि जैसे जैसे लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी बढ़ रही है, there are reasons to believe that there is more health. ये भी एक जैसे मैंने कहा, this is a myth कि these people are normally sick and old and therefore they have got frail health, which is not true. Because देखने में आया है कि because the age, life expectancy, the life that we live is growing, and for that purpose the health is better at this age also, and that is why our life expectancy has increased substantially. So ये लोग, they are not only healthy, but most of them are employed, and they are productively employed, and most of them either are working in corporations at different level positions, or if not, then they are contributing a lot of effort in the social society setups where they contribute in various forms. So that is what is becoming quite important to understand the grouping. Now, मैंने कहा था कि इसकी segmentation का भी issue है, and then I will show you a clip जिसमें ये दिखाया जा रहा है कि this market is becoming so big and so important कि वो products जो किसी ज़माने में सिर्फ teens को target किए जाते थे, अब वो products इनको भी target किए जा रहे हैं. Because like I said, पहले जो assumption था कि जो older group है उनकी एक ही तरह की behavior frameworks होंगे, लेकिन research ये कहती है कि they are very wide variety of consumer behaviors which exist in their system, and they buy different products. They are most probably the most logical target for luxury items like very special cars, branded vacations, because they are more into that kind of a lifestyle. And they travel a lot also because at this age, since they have resources, they can travel. Now, keeping this in mind, we need to be able to understand that we should be able to break the older people into various subcategories. There is young old, which are just reaching between 50 and 65. Then there are old, which is the higher level, which is beyond 75 or 80. And then there is this old group, which is in the middle. Now, each one of them logically will have distinctive features. और जो myth हमारी थी कि these people are less healthy, they have more time, ये हो सकता है कि उस ग्रुप के साथ लिंक करती हो जिसको हम old बोलते हैं. So there is a very distinctive group of the senior citizen जो अब आ रहे हैं on the frame mind of the marketers, वो हो सकता है काफी distinctive हों from the other groups. So we need to be very careful in looking at this. Now, this segment, which is the older segment, requires to be advertised in a totally different manner. And the issue that I pointed out here is very significant, and that is जो एक difference जो अभी तक नजर आ रहा है वो ये कि products which are meant for the older people or targeted at the older people, अभी भी there is a very small group of models who are old who are being used for this purpose. और इसके concern काफी पैदा हो चुके हैं in the marketing literature, और मार्केटिंग के जो रिसर्चर्स हैं उन्होंने इस पे काफी काम किया है, और उनके कंसिडरेशन में ये एक गैप आ रहा है कि जहां प्रोडक्ट्स जो कि ओल्डर पीपल के लिए टारगेटेड किए जा रहे हों किसी भी शेप में, उनको एक्चुअली जो प्रोडक्ट दिए जाते हैं वो उनके जो मॉडल्स हैं वो कंपैटिबल नहीं हैं विद द काइंड ऑफ टारगेट मार्केट दैट वी आर लुकिंग एट. एंड द इशू बेसिकली, एज हैज बीन सजेस्टेड बाय मार्केटर्स, इज that the people who are working in these advertising companies and agencies are normally in the younger age group, and since they do not understand the true nature of the older consumer, so they cannot relate to it, and because of this, there is a gap in understanding the market. The market, which is what I've told you, is a very strong, potential, growing, and a large segment, which may be of very much interest to a number of marketers. Or yahan we need to understand also that the characteristic of this market is that they want, unlike generation X जिसके मैंने कहा था कि वो नहीं पसंद करते कि उनको कोई टारगेट करे इंडिविजुअल के तौर पे और उसको प्रमोट करने की कोशिश करे, बिकॉज मैंने कहा था कि they are little skeptical, but this older group likes to be targeted, and they like to be targeted, and but the point which is very important is that they like the right product for them. They just don't want to be considered as not capable of lot of thought or not very educated and so on and so forth. So anything can be marketed to them. That is a dangerous assumption. It is very significant that these people are provided the right product, the right services, and the right kind of what you call advertisements, which will actually speak to them rather to the general public. And that is what we have to look at. Now, having discussed the age subculture, I told you we will be looking at the gender as another group of subculture, और वो भी एक फ्रेम बन गया है, बिकॉज जनरली अराउंड द वर्ल्ड men and women have been differentiated in their roles, और उनके जो traits थे, उनकी जो characteristics थी, वो भी consider की जाती थी कि जो masculine हैं, they are more aggressive, they are more competitive, whereas the women or the feminine traits which belong to the women are more that they are concerned with neatness, cleanliness, they are more tactful, they are gentle, and obviously they talk a lot. So that is where these two kind of gender characteristics have been used hypothetically over the period of time. लेकिन अब जो चीज़ नज़र आ रही है कि ये जो जेंडर डिफरेंशिएशन थी, ये काफ़ी इसमें जो गैप था वो काफ़ी क्लोज इन कर गया है, और उसकी वजूहात वी हैव ऑलरेडी बीन डिस्कसिंग इन द फैमिली लाइफ साइकिल, द सेक्शन ऑफ द फैमिली लाइफ साइकिल व्हेन वी वर स्टडिंग दैट, कि कई रोल्स जो हैं जो कि एक्सक्लूसिवली लेडीज के लिए थे वो अब चेंज कर गए हैं. ये जो रोल्स चेंज किए हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल इट वाज कंसिडर्ड दैट द वुमन will always stay at the home, take care of the children, cook meals, and that is all, and go for shopping and do the groceries. And they would not be part of decisions on very technical kind of products like consumer products like refrigerator खरीदना है या AC खरीदना है या car खरीदनी है, तो they were not part of the decision making, assumably with this logic that they do not know technical things. But this role has changed because around the world, and which is very true in Pakistan also, more women are being educated at higher levels, and that is true internationally also. There is even a small research where it says that in a specific school, there were more PhD students who were females than males. So there is this change coming in. Or फिर outside also, as we have seen in Pakistan also, and most probably in various countries, particularly in Malaysia and those countries, you can see women being taxi drivers and they ply on the roads. That stage has not come in Pakistan, but what I'm saying is that the traditional role of a woman to stay home has undergone change, and more women are coming into the job market. So obviously, जब job market में हो, so there has to be a different kind of a segment that is required, and the messages and the targeted appeals जो advertisements करेंगे, उनको भी they have to take this thing into consideration. More and more men have started helping out in the homes, looking after the children, maybe helping in cooking because the wife is also being worked and they are bringing in money. So this kind of a change is quite logical, and it is looked at in the different parts of the world because economic development may 50%, which is the general population of the world, we cannot ignore the women. So there is this change, and this change is going to be for the benefit if we can harness this particular area. अब चूंकि ये चीज़ क्या नाम है समझ आ रही है कि there is this distinctive group, so there are characteristics which have to be taken care of. But rather than go into the distinctive characteristics, we've already discussed this in the previous section when we were looking at segmentation processes. We will just concentrate on the female segmentation area, particularly where it relates to the housewife and the career woman. We need to be able to look at these 4 distinct groups within the women category. One is pure housewife kind of a lady who would take care of the family, look at the home, go out for shopping, groceries, taking care of everything else. There is another group of ladies who are potential workers. They would think that unka jo logic hai wo कि once they have the family, the children are in good schools at that age when they can be left alone, their intention is that they will then take up some kind of a job. Third category of people or women are who are into a job not because of any compulsion, but because they believe that they will be contributing to the income of the family. So they hold a job for the purposes of just adding some income to the family, because these days, because of inflationary pressures, because of so many other variables, more income is required, particularly for the education of the children. Education cost is going up. Naturally, so many things would happen. So there will be requirement of supplementing the income growth. The last one is really the lady who is career oriented. That means she is ready to make sacrifices to rise high up into the what do you call the working group of people. So there are career orientation. अब यहाँ obviously distinctiveness आ जाती है, and we should be able to understand where to market to these people, what mediums to use, and what kind of behaviors do they expect, and do they exhibit. क्या उनके behaviors हैं. For example, the household ladies or wives, they normally tend to group together to go and buy. Discussions are basically on what is available, what products are available, what brands are there, what kind of things are happening. Or they tend to rely on their friends to guide them to buy different products. So there the opinion leader concept becomes very critical in their setup. But look at the other side of the picture where the lady is a career-oriented woman. She doesn't have time. She has to go to the office 9 to 5. So her focus would be to be able to get this information on the internet or from some source where she can analyze the source herself and try and bring the decision on her own. These people obviously will tend to be more brand loyal, and their approach would be to be able to judge information on their own. Now, this group is also becoming quite large because they have substantial money, and the marketers are becoming more involved in trying to find ways and means to sell to them. For example, in Japan, a car was specially built to cater to this very strongly growing segment, which is career-oriented women. अब आपको नजर आता है कि ये दोनों में कितना फर्क होगा in terms of looking at which medium they would use or which kind of TV के जो programs हैं वो कौन से देखते होंगे. तो जिन चीज़ों की advertisement करनी है वो अगर इन चारों categories को आप मद्देनजर रखें तो you will be able to make a very strong distinctive decision on these areas. और इनके लिए advertisement भी different होंगे. For example, like I was saying, the career-oriented woman, it has researched and has been found, are more brand loyal. उसकी logic simple है, they do not have the time to go searching around. So once they become satisfied with the brand, they will continue to buy that brand. इसीलिए अगर brand loyalty create करने का कोई logic बनता है इस area में, तो उसके लिए जो focus है वो भी categorical होना चाहिए, because in the other category, the decisions are not made depending on the brand loyalties, but on the networking of the women. The housewives, okay, they network, so they may change brands just because the group is involved in that kind of a decision. From here, we also have this conclusion drawn that the housewife category of people are more involved in conspicuous consumption. And I had defined to you conspicuous consumption is where people tend to buy not because they need it, but because they want to show that they have this kind of a product. Therefore, conspicuous consumption is basically linked with what others have and what I have. Whereas in the other area where the career-oriented women are concerned, they are more concerned with what is more important to them and their careers, and therefore they go from that angle. Bringing this whole logic into a little bit of a marketing implication framework, remember we had talked about in terms of when the products are being marketed or brands are being marketed, they are also given certain characteristics or personalities. Now, similar things happen. If you watch certain brands or products which are considered to be comfort-giving, तो उनके जो characteristics हैं या उस brand की जो personality है वो more feminist होगी gender के base के ऊपर. But then there are certain products or certain brands which are considered to be rugged and strong, and उनके साथ जो associated frames हैं वो masculinity के basis पर होगा. और यहाँ we have come to a clear distinction कि yes, where we market products to a particular gender, we also use these gender characteristics to personalize or provide personalities to products and brands. Now, finally, let me conclude on this a very simple logic that has been studied, and it is particularly the women's view. And the women's view is especially those people who are career-oriented, जहाँ उनके ख्याल में there is a lot of hype or exaggeration about the concept of beauty. इसीलिए कई जगहों के ऊपर पहले भी मैं I've been discussing this, that use of female models and beauty and all that may be undergoing a change, because it is being considered that there is something missing from the description of what is beauty, and therefore we have a problem. There has been research done where women who are very normal have been shown, and other women who have seen these ads prefer those because it does not give them something that is not achievable, but it presents something that they can achieve in the natural frame. So rather than trying to idealize something which may not be possible and which has already shown some negative impacts, जैसे वो ladies या लड़कियां जो dieting पर इतनी चली जाती हैं to be able to reduce their weight or look very slim, which has resulted in a major problem in medical terms, और काफी नुकसान हो चुका है. तो that is why there is a very strong movement which is shifting from that angle. And ये जो movement है, इसका एक characteristic ये है कि we should not continue to consider what was in history will also be true as we move into the future. On the other side, अगर आप देखें कि ये जो beauty और health का consciousness है, ये अब आदमियों में भी आ रहा है very strongly. There is men grooming products, and more or less every cosmetic company worth its name has now a complete range of product for men, which include moisturizers and whatever you have. The idea is even a number of hair salons and hair clinics have started providing particular services which are tuned to male population. कहने का मतलब ये है कि there is a shift taking place. ये चीजें about let's say 20 years or 10 years back were not there. They were not considered to be something which is significantly masculine. But nowadays there has been a shift, and this shift we can also see in the clothing sector, where we have the boutiques which are catering solely for men. So ready-made garments and all these kind of products which create an image are now shifting from the focus on the woman to the focus on the man. And any magazine that you pick up, you will always find that where there used to be exclusive female models presenting dresses, now we find very large sections where male models are showing off their clothes, and that is where the change is taking place. We need to be very cognizant of this fact that this may be the reason why a product may be marketed totally separately to the males or to the females. So we need to be taking that into consideration. This brings us to the end of the cultural frame, the various subcultures that exist. And we should also remember that the interaction between these subcultures is very significant. And we need to remember that where one culture may exist, there are overlaps through the subcultures, and we have had a lot of discussion on it. We will take the same discussion more in towards the world or globalization concept, where we know that the same theme is logical, because agar ek country ke andar there could be so many subcultures, so there is also the logic that every country would have its own cultural frame. But on the other side of the picture is that where we talk about one culture overriding culture in a country, जिसके नीचे subcultures operate करते हैं, so we should be able to look at the convergence at the higher level. The same logic is also applicable in the concept where globalization is taking place. What it basically means is that in globalization, there are trends which are pushing the marketing companies to more or less use homogenized themes of marketing. But on the other side, there is also a very strong component which suggests that we must be very sensitive to the individual country or culture's that exist in various societies. अब इनकी ज़रूरत क्यों पड़ रही है is something that we would like to look at very closely. We would also try and establish what is the concept of country of origin, because that is what we will obviously be discussing in terms of multinational cultures, and how people acquire other cultures is also very significant, because it is through this framework that we will be able to launch products and be successful. In this, I will not name the product, but I will give you a little bit of anecdotal evidence how it was done. One of the pizza companies, and you should understand that pizza is a food item coming from Italy. Now, it's logical that in Pakistan, we would not be able to find many people who had tasted pizza. The problem, therefore, is if somebody has never tasted this product, how would you bring into position this product so that people could acquire the taste, number one, and then start liking the taste, and then the product can establish itself in a country. Now, this requires cultural studies, obviously similarities, and we can now see that most of the product, fast food that we have seen come into Pakistan have been localized in their taste frameworks. You will find tandoori chicken even in pizza, and you will find even in chicken, you will find products which are, let's say, very chili oriented. That means there is a lot of mirchi in it, and so on and so forth. So the logic of the discussion in international cultural frames is significant from this point. We now need to know what is going on into the international business and why this is becoming more and more significant. If you realize there are a number of, free trade zones or economic gatherings like the European Union. Now, European Union is trying to become a one large European market with a number of countries in it. That trend had started some time back, but we should also not ignore the fact that even though it is trying to become a one single market, which might facilitate marketers to use the same products and models and reduce their cost by advertising to the whole of the European Union. Lekin, within that system, we have another issue that there is Spain, and there is England, and there is France, and there is Germany, and there is Italy, and so on and so forth. So they have variety of people also. अब यहाँ एक concept जो कि काफी significant हो गया in terms of a new term which has come into position, and it is called glocal, which is glocal means basically global and local. So we are getting into a framework where both globalization and localization is taking place. It is said that we should think globally but act locally, which means jahan we are conceiving of strategies, they should be using all the frameworks of the multinational systems, but when we actually implement it, it might be requiring sensitivity to the various cultures. यहाँ मैं आपको एक screen दिखाने लगा हूँ, and it's kind of an experiment. Okay, you look at it and consider कि मिसाल के तौर पे it will help you to understand how much you understand the international cultural differences. और इस screen की मदद से we should be able to look at and the assumption is कि आप एक manager की हैसियत से मुल्क से बाहर travel करने लगे हैं, and you are going to travel to various countries. Or like all marketers do, we normally tend to take gifts when we visit to these various countries to present them to the people who will be negotiating with और जिनके साथ हमारा कारोबार है, हम उनको कोई तोहफे देंगे. अब यहाँ 5 countries हैं और 5 किस्म के gifts हैं जो you might like to carry in your bag. अब देखना ये है कि जब आप किसी मुल्क में जाते हैं तो क्या आप उनमें से कोई भी चीज़ उठा के अपने जो आपका होस्ट है जिसकी कंट्री में आप जा रहे हैं, would you give it to him, or would you first consider some aspects of the country's culture before you present that gift? So let's look at this list, and then you will come to a conclusion. And in the next class, then I will try and help you to try and see what your answers were, and we can compare our answers and our the relative relationship between the product and the country. On the left of this screen, you will see the gifts, and on the right, there will be the countries. What you need to do is to match which one would you give in which country, and which country would you avoid giving the other gift. And when we meet, we'll be then comparing our notes and see which country and what relationship. Now, having given you this information, let's look at the information about the various economic systems, or as we call the like the EU is a single market concept. We have the ASEAN, which is another free trade area. Then we have the NAFTA, and we have so many others that we are looking at, and including the SAARC. SAARC is not a very significant player in this field, but ASEAN, EU, NAFTA, they are really very significant in terms of the categories. And we will try and look at the countries which are involved in these various, trade organizations or trade associations or country associations, and then see कि अगर एक मार्केटर इन कंट्रीज में अपना प्रोडक्ट बेचने की कोशिश करता है, बिकॉज इट्स अ फ्री ट्रेड जोन एंड योर प्रोडक्ट विल नॉट इन्वॉल्व एनी टैक्सेशन, तो उसको क्या करना पड़ेगा, एंड हाउ विल ही गो अबाउट trying to understand the various culture. This is what is significant. So let's look at various trade zones that we have in the world. Now, in the NAFTA area, there is these three countries which are involved in it: the United States of America, the Canada, and Mexico. और अगर आप गौर से देखें तो there is close to about 430 million consumers in this single market. अब अगर एक पाकिस्तानी tries to export a product to this group, would he be able to sell the same brand with the same marketing technique in Mexico as well as in Canada, which is on both the opposite sides of America? That is, one in the north and one in the south. And in between is America. In the same case, ASEAN countries, for example, includes Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam, and including Brunei. Now look at the vastness of the kind of people who live in this, and therefore a person who wants to set up an office, sell a product in this group of ASEAN countries, what should he do? The question now basically to any marketer or any businessman is not whether they should go to these different countries. The method or the question is, how do we do it? The question would not be whether we should have some kind of a marketing technique which will help us in the globalized system. It will be, what is that technique? That is where we need to start thinking about strategies which take into account not only these large groupings which is already existing and which have very strong control in the world, but also other economic activities and opportunities that are coming into the area. And as we see in Pakistan, most of us have been emphasizing that we are still way behind in our international marketing frameworks. And maybe the reason is that we do not really understand what kind of cultures we are confronting. And the screen that I had shown you, a number of people have made various mistakes. I will not give you the one of the stories that I know because I was in Malaysia, and I would not like to quote now. But in the next class, when we look at the comparison or the, जिसको हम कहते हैं जब आप relationship बना लेंगे कि which links with which product links with which country, then I will tell you this story, and we will see how people can make basic mistakes when they go into these frameworks. Now, ये चीज तो हकीकत है कि this external markets or international markets इस वक्त दुनिया की सबसे ज्यादा बड़ी markets बन चुकी हैं और इनमें growth opportunities are excessive. We have already seen the Chinese capturing all these markets everywhere. It is up to us now to be able to seek growth, not by looking inside the country alone and looking at the various cultures here, but we have to have a very strong trust to be able to take care of the internationalization and the globalization that is taking place. और ये बात भी हकीकत है कि people outside, because of their changing lifestyles, are not now confused or afraid to try new products. Just like in Pakistan, we constantly try out new products from various countries. The same logic is existing in other countries where people tend to buy different products. And I will just give you a small scenario. Just say, I think the thing what I'm saying will become more clear. And I will use the story which is said in America or in some Western world, but we can apply it in Pakistan too. Now the story is like this. I'm a manager. I have to go to my office. So I am driving a Mercedes-Benz. But before I left, I had a juice, which is produced in Pakistan. But I had my bread, double roti, toast, jo maine khaya, that was baked in a toaster, which was produced in Taiwan. When I went to my office, the office secretary was sitting on a computer, which was produced in America. It was a Dell computer. When I come back to my home, my wife is back home from her shopping, but she was using a Suzuki car, which is made in Pakistan. My car made in Germany. My wife's car is made in Pakistan. Then we sit down in front of a television, which normally is from Philips and may have come from Holland, and we are watching a movie made in India. Now, if you look at this whole framework, and we still believe that we are strong Pakistanis. Obviously, I believe that I'm a Pakistani, but look at the kind of products that we have bought. And this is true everywhere. We do not have any single product that may not be found in another country from the same framework. Now, the issue is not this, that these products are available. The problem is how to market these products all along these countries. And that is where the opportunities exist, because everywhere products are now acceptable. There is this issue that I would like to point out in the very beginning, that research ने काफ़ी इस पे काम किया है, और यहाँ एहसास ये हो रहा है कि जो product का country of origin है, that has a very significant impact on people's perceptions. And these perceptions can come from a variety of sources. So we are not trying to say that इसकी source की वजह सिर्फ किसी को पसंद करना या किसी से दुश्मनी है. But the fact is that people tend to, and have now started tending to, link countries with technology, with quality, with innovation, and so on and so forth. तो जब भी हमारे जहन में जो perceptions हैं, वो are now being framed through the look at the country. For example, technology may we consider at least in the car technology, the Germans are very superior in terms of looking at the aesthetics of the thing. We think the Italians and the French are very good at it. We look at the Americans, we think they are very efficient and their products are more efficient orientated. We look at the Japanese, they have miniaturized everything, so they are very good at that area. और फिर जो भी product वहाँ से निकलता है, so we keep logically associating these images, these perceptions with the products that also come out of these countries. Now, the logic of globalization and how people become exposed to the culture is another significant question that we need to ask, and we need to give an answer, because from there we should be able to start thinking about how marketing can benefit from these areas. Now, consumers learn about other products because either they have personally traveled, because that is their own exposure to the various cultures, and when they come back, they bring the same considerations, the same aspects, the same thought processes within the country. The next method is that they normally are looking at the media, and because of this internationalization of the media frame, we are exposed to a lot of information that is coming in. So either we take our own initiative, and on our own initiative we travel, we work outside, we go and get educated outside. So many other frames are moving in, and from there we bring a lot of information and lot of behaviors and lot of exposure to culture. और इसीलिए we will see कि Pakistanis जो बाहर गए into Dubai and America and UK, they bring a lot of cultural feedbacks to our own country. इसीलिए एक जो लॉजिक ऑपरेट कर रही है कि कन्वर्जेंस टेक प्लेस करती है, तो उस कन्वर्जेंस में इस चीज का एक बहुत सिग्निफिकेंट हाथ है. The other aspect is that either we live in that culture or we travel and bring that culture back. Normally, we also try and get in contact with this foreign culture through the movie, the theater, the artifacts, the internet, the television, and so on and so forth. This form of internationalization of cultural transfer that is basically taking place has significant value for people who most probably are interested in using these frames and these cultural methodologies to be able to market their own products. Now, national identity is another concept which has moved into the system of international marketing. What is national identity? And I told you that people tend to associate products with countries or countries with products because of certain features. तो उसमें national identity भी एक concept है जिसकी logic है to be able to understand. It is basically a grouping of the characteristics that are being associated with a particular country in terms of customs, in terms of their technological background, their education, and so on and so forth. Coming from there, we also have what we call ethnocentricity. Ethnocentricity means how strong are we in the frame of our own culture. That means how common are these factors which spread around the system. For example, education के हवाले से बात की, अगर किसी country में there is a variety or a variation in the level of education around this country, it will create weakness in the system. But those countries where education is more or less of the similar nature, there the cultural strength will be stronger, and so on and so forth. तो यहाँ ethnocentricity का एक concept है which is very significant. जहाँ और ये marketing and research suggest कि जहाँ ethnocentricity strong है, तो you should not or you should avoid launching new products because that product has to be totally linked with that system before it will be assimilated into the culture. However, it will be easier for us to launch a product where ethnocentricity is weaker. Why? Because in that particular area, by carrying out proper cultural analysis, we should be able to find a particular group which resembles or which relates more closely to our own country's cultural group from where we actually are bringing that product into position. Doing this will facilitate and synergize the system. We have our own, group where we are used to that group's behavior. If we can find a similar group, which obviously will be located in a country with a weaker ethnocentric systems, तो वहाँ उसको launch करना आसान होगा. But अपने culture से, if we take a product out and try and bring it strongly in contact with a very strong ethnocentric culture, we might find problems. इसीलिए cross-cultural consumer analysis becomes very important. Now, we are coming to the end of the lecture. I'll try and recapitulate whatever we have done today. And obviously, we will continue with this international cultural and cross-cultural comparisons in the next class. Today, we looked at a little bit of a recapitulation of the age subgroup, focused more in terms of the gender variations and the logic of gender variations. Obviously, we should not forget that we had taken a deeper look at the older generation subculture in the generation framework or cultural framework. Then we have moved towards the internationalization, which is globalization of the cultural concept. And we have been able to suggest the reasons for it, which is basically that there are economic systems which are getting together. But on the other side, we also find that within those trade and economic centers, there are distinct cultural frames, particularly like I gave you the case of EU or the ASEAN countries where these frames are very significant. The question, therefore, is not whether we should enter these markets, but the question is, how should we do it? So in the next class, we will try and continue with this. Allah Hafiz.